My name is Emily Izola, and I'm so excited to be with you here tonight. I'm the one that you get all the emails from. I'm the YC director, and I couldn't be more excited about this masterclass as well as the Christmas recital. Videos, as you all know, are due tomorrow, but the show won't premiere until December 22nd at ccapresents.usu.edu. You guys will all get links to share. I'm going to go ahead and change the view to gallery view. You are welcome to mess around with the Zoom settings to find what your preference is, but you see in the right corner, you can either change the view to speaker view or gallery view. While you are not, if you're not a teacher teaching, your settings should be on mute so that we don't get any confusing background noise. If you guys have questions or something's not working right, feel free to drop your question in the chat. Also in the chat box, you will see at the very top a link to a program for this evening that outlines all of the pieces and the players that we get to hear from. Quick thank you to Sarah Hamataki and Kylie Fulmer. You'll get to see them teach tonight, but those are the Youth Conservatory grad assistants, and they do so much work to make sure that all of these events are possible. So I wanted to just take that quick moment to thank them. Wave, I know you're out there, you guys. Thank you so much for all your work. Teachers, before you go, make sure when you screen share, you optimize the video for both screen sharing, like the video quality as well as the sound quality. When you just have 1 minute left, I'm going to give you some type of sound so that you know you just have 1 minute left. And okay, I think that's everything. With no further ado, we are going to get started. First up, we get to hear from Rob, who will be the teacher, and the student performer is Simone.
Okay, very nice. So do we want to just listen to her performance?
Absolutely.
All right, here we go.
Rob, we can't hear it.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm still like vague on how to do this.
That's okay. Do you want to send me the Zoom link or drop it in the chat and then I can screen share? And in the meantime, while Rob is getting set up with that, I can also pull up the video too if it's hard to drop the link in the chat. But let's move to Emma Call and we'll go to Up on the Housetop next, and then we'll come back to Simone.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Okay. Sweet. So I'm using the recording from Isaac. I haven't seen him here. I don't know if he's here. And I have the recording. For some reason, it won't share the video, but I can play the recording. Okay, so there is Isaac's recording. I don't know if Isaac is here, but if he is here, I just want to tell him great job. I think you play really, really well. You play really steady. The tempo is pretty consistent throughout the whole thing. And it can be tricky jumping from octave to octave sometimes in these pieces. And I think that you do that really well. There's no hesitation. So I can tell that you worked hard and you've practiced. So great job. The main thing that I want to go over really quick is the tempo on one line. It's the line that says all for the little ones, Christmas joys. So other than that one line, the tempo was super steady and it was consistent. Yeah, it was just this one line. So in my pieces, when I have a spot like this, that's tricky or I'm not really sure what the rhythm is supposed to be, I always pull out the metronome to double check myself. So hang on, I'm gonna stop my share for a second so you can see my face. Okay, so I'm gonna put on the metronome. So this is how I would practice this part. Sorry, it's not moving. Oh, well. Okay. So the tempo marking says 200, which is pretty fast, but Isaac, I think you were spot on. So I'm going to put the metronome on 200. It's about this fast. So that's for the quarter notes. And when I'm trying to figure out the rhythm for a line, I always move my body first. So I'm going to start by nodding and clapping the rhythm just for this one line with the metronome to see how it goes, and then I'll try playing it since that's more complicated. So just this one line, all for the little ones, Christmas joys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's a little bit fast. Maybe I'll do it again so you can see it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it goes about like that. So now we can try playing it. And it goes like this. So that's how that line goes. Now we can try putting it into, normally I would have you play that too, but I don't know if you can't see you. But now we can put it back into context, and I'll play the whole piece for you so you can hear how the tempo is consistent. Hang on, my music keeps getting messed up. Okay. Okay, so there is the whole song together. And then one last thing is that you probably noticed, Isaac, but the very last note, I think you played an F, but it's actually a G. So that finishes off the song. So now you can hear how the tempo is consistent. Keep practicing with the metronome, and if you need to do it slower, that's totally fine. But just start with a little section and then put it into context and play the whole song together.
Thank you. Let's hear the next one. I'll go ahead and share the screen and show you Simone playing Jolly Old St. Nicholas.
All right, very good. So I first of all just wanted to commend you on your playing, Simone. That was really great. Some positive things that I noticed that I really liked were your posture. I noticed that you're sitting very straight at the keyboard. Your arms look and elbows look really relaxed for the most part. Your wrists are nice and where we want them to get that good tone. So that was very, very good. As far as the dynamics and everything too, I thought it was a very good performance. So where you started out forte at the beginning was very nice. For those first 6 notes, your rhythm was really good. So, and then I really liked your piano contrast. I think it was in measure 13, and then very emphatic at the end too. So there was a lot of good things about this performance. One thing I just wanted to take note of is the first time where we play that E. Oh, whoops, sorry. We want to make sure that that gets its full value. So we want to make sure that we're keeping the rhythm in mind so that jolly old St. Nicholas has time to lean his ear in, right? So if you don't give that note the full value, he's not going to have time to hear what you have to say, right? So just make sure to keep that in mind. Along with that, I think it's helpful to kind of know the words, right, of the song, because the song is about telling Santa Claus or having Santa Claus tell us what he's going to bring us for Christmas, right? So it's kind of supposed to be a dialogue, right? So that's something to keep in mind, I think, as far as how you interpret the song. Let's see. And then I noticed that where the hand positions change, that's where we kind of have the problems. So the second time there was a little bit of a slip, and I noticed that, let's see, one thing that might help you with that is kind of thinking of everything in 2 8-bar phrases, okay? So the whole song is basically 2 different versions of the same idea. So the only thing that's going to change is the ending note, which at first is a D, and then the last time we play a C, okay? So if you can think of it in terms of there's our first group, okay? And then the second group, we play the same thing, but we just end on C. So I think a good way to simplify everything is just to think of the 2 hand positions that we have to play, which are in our right hand, C, D, and E. And then in our left hand, G, A, and C. So if you can kind of break it up and simplify everything in those 2 groups, and then you can just follow the melody. I think one thing that helps too is kind of imagining singing the song, because it's I noticed that when you stopped the second time, you tried to kind of sing and figure out where you were, right? So that's a good technique to keep up with, if you can kind of use what you're singing to guide you and keep you on track there. And then another thing I thought might be helpful is sort of a tabletop exercise, so you can just practice just playing your fingers and singing the song while you tap on the tabletop. That way you're not having to worry about hitting the right notes or anything. You can just at least get the fingerings and sing the melody and get that kind of in your head. And but pretty much that's all I had. So
Will you play it for us?
yes.
Thank you. Okay, up next we have you, Sean, and Allie with Jingle Bells. Take it away, you, Sean.
Yeah, here is mine. And it's Jingle Bell with Ellie. And here I want you to know whether you can hear or not.
Oh, perfect.
internet connection. Okay, so I'll just talk. It's already very a beautiful play, Ellie, and thanks for her teacher Sarah. And I really like you emphasize the accents that on the score, and make the whole piece a very joyful piece. And there are something I want to say is about the speed. It's a horse running on the snow, so the speed can be much faster. And then the second thing is about the staccato. On the second page, when you see the staccato, and it's like the bell ring. So you need to jump up from the key like this. Do not drop on the key. Do not do this. You need to jump up. Okay. And then the third thing, the last thing, is about the rhythm. Here you have 2 S notes, and the 2 S notes equals 1 quarter note. Maybe you even can let the piano closed and to practice the rhythm on the board without the sound, and to get the correct rhythm, and then open the piano and play with the right notes and the right rhythm. And one more, the last page here, you see they move to a D position. It's a step higher than the previous key, so it can be more joyful. And here is the only piano in the whole piece. So I want, maybe you can try to emphasize that piano and then the crescendo and then the mezzo forte here at the very end of the piece to make the piece more joyful. That is all I want to say. And here is, I don't know whether the link can work. I can drop it to you.
Yay! Okay,
Okay,
great.
that's all I want to.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Yushan. Yes, thank you to Yushan and Allie. Okay, up next we have Rockin' Around the Christmas Tree with How, When, and Marilyn.
Okay, so let me share the screen. Okay, so let me pull up the score here. Okay, so this is Walking Around the Christmas Tree, and you can see the tempo marking is in 2.5 notes equal 120. So although this is in 4/4 meter, but because the tempo is really fast, so we want to play in 2.
Sorry, Helen, let me interrupt. There's somebody who's figured out that awesome Blackboard feature where you can draw all over. Don't do that though. It's very distracting. Okay, continue, Helen. Thank you.
Okay, so we want to play in 2 in every measure. So everybody do this with me. Let's do a conducting thing. So we will draw a cross and maybe like an infinite symbol, right? So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Then speed up. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, now everybody try to get to your piano and play the melody line with me. And then feel the conducting feeling in your head, in your hand. Okay, so it's okay. Let's do it again. So feel this conducting 2. Okay, so 1, 2, 1, 2. And then the next thing you can do is try to conduct with singing. So you can sing with me. 1, 2, ready, go. Da 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 dee da 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 dee. Okay, let's try again. 1, 2, ready, go. Da 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 dee da 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 dee. Okay, so this is how we feel into the rhythm. So I'm gonna play the whole piece. Okay. Okay, that's it.
Thank you. Up next, we get to hear Ukrainian Carol. This will be taught by Kylie, and it will be Adam, the student that is playing the piece for us.
Okay, great. So let me pull up my YouTube. And I haven't seen Adam here yet, but this is Adam. He's one of my students.
Oh, I'm here.
Oh, he is here. Good. I'm glad you're here, Adam. Thanks for telling me.
I just joined pretty late.
Oh, that's okay. No worries. Okay, so I actually think I forgot to share my computer sound. So let me try that one more time. Okay. Here we go. All right. So Adam does a really great job with a lot of things with this piece. A few of them, just to name some, are the notes and the rhythm. He plays great notes and he has great rhythm. He stays really, really consistent and really steady there. But there's two things that I think can just take his playing even just to the next level, make it even better and make it even more fun to play and to listen to. The first thing that I want to talk about is the dynamics. And I have here kind of a map of the dynamics, maybe. And something that I like about mapping out the dynamics is that you can do this with every single piece. It doesn't have to just be Ukrainian Carol. It's just a great way to have a visual of how loud and how soft you're going to be. And maybe it shows where the loudest parts and the softest parts of the whole song are too. So the very beginning of the piece starts piano, and then we slowly work our way up to forte. And the forte isn't until like the end of the second page, so we have a lot of room to start at piano and to grow up to forte. Then, right here, there's a really big dip. You can see this right here. It jumps immediately from forte down to mezzo piano. It's a really big jump, and then these diagonal lines right here are our crescendos that we have. And these crescendos, I didn't include all of the crescendos in my map, but these ones I thought were really important because it's this part. I'll play it for you real quick. So that's a pretty important part of the song. It's really like characteristic of this piece, I feel like. And that happens 2 times. So I have 2 crescendos that go from mezzo piano all the way up to forte twice. And then we start our descent, and then we end at pianissimo. So you can see just from my map here that my loudest parts are right here on my forte and the tops of my crescendos, and then the softest is the very ending at a pianissimo. So what should we do with this information? How should we play our piece with these things? There's 3 things I want to tell you guys, and one of them is to don't start too loud, because like I said, we start at piano, we have a page and a half before we get to forte. So if you start too loud, you're not going to have any more room left to grow as you keep going. So start softer. Don't be afraid to start too soft. And then my other tip is to create contrast, especially when we go from forte to mezzo piano, because that's a huge jump. We're skipping quite a few sounds, dynamic sounds, I guess, to get all the way down to mezzo piano and then again to crescendo up to forte. So create a big contrast between those. And then the last thing, and you should always do this when you're playing the piano, is to have fun. Because when you're having fun, well, with these dynamics, you can have fun experimenting with different things. You can try starting softer and getting louder, and then maybe even seeing how fast you can get soft or how fast you can get loud with your crescendos, and then coming back down to pianissimo. There's tons of different things to experiment with, and you can have lots of fun with that. Okay, then my last tip for Adam is the speed of the piece, the speed and the fluency. So Ukrainian Carol is a really fun piece, and everyone loves this piece. Maybe not everyone, but a lot of people do. And it's a pretty quick piece. So if you heard, let's see. So Adam was playing, I think last week, he was playing it at about 100 on the metronome. We were working with this in his lesson last week. And then we worked with the metronome to build it up to 120 and then even up to 144, as it says at the beginning of the piece. So speed is really important. Use the metronome to help you with that and with your fluency anytime you're transitioning between lines or between pages. So those are my 2 tips, the dynamics and then the speed and fluency. Now I will share my screen one more time to show my performance. So let's see. I want to get out of this. Come on. There we go. Okay, here we go. Okay, and that's everything that I have for Ukrainian Carol.
All right. Up next, we are going to hear We Wish You a Merry Christmas with Sarah Hamatake and Olson Welsh. Are you frozen, Sarah?
Hi, can you hear me?
I hear you. Yeah, all is well.
Literally, as soon as you said my name, my internet wigged out. Okay, so I'm assuming you said that Olson is playing, so here is his video. Hey, so great work, Olson. Olson's been working really hard on this, and I wish you could hear his jazz, which is the fourth part of this song. You'll all get to hear it hopefully soon. Really, really awesome. So my favorite thing about this piece is that we get a little bit of taste of a bunch of different styles of music. So we start with this Baroque Christmas party, we have a classical Christmas party, a romantic Christmas party, and then a jazz Christmas party. So we're covering as much time as we can from like early 1600s up until today, possibly. So that's a really fun thing, but this is a totally different style than a lot of people get to play very often. So something that I think is important to keep in mind is that each of these pieces can be kind of treated as its own piece, and so they should kind of be approached that way. So I think Olson and I have talked about how to do each of these differently, but not how to play all of them together and have them all still be different. The biggest thing that I think any of you who are playing this or anything like this to consider are the tempo markings that you have for each one. So the Baroque is marked allegretto, so it's a little bit faster, not fast really, but a little bit moving along. Something else characteristic of Baroque music is it's very clean sounding. There's not like a bunch of sound going on at once. You have like one thing, maybe two, sometimes three, generally speaking. So it's important to follow every little marking and keep this as clean sounding as possible. But keeping that in mind, something that is good to practice is not playing shallowly. So for example, if I were playing kind of a shallow sound, it might sound like this. Maybe just sounded soft to some of you, but I don't know if you noticed some of the notes weren't really there or they were softer than others. So even though this should be light and clean sounding, you want to make sure you're syncing all the way into the keys when you play and give us a really nice strong sound, something more like this. more deliberate and powerful. This can also help with speed issues. Just kind of relaxing into the keys and playing strongly that way can help not speeding up or slowing down. Something else I wanted to mention is Olson was doing a really, really great job with pedaling. And there was something I noticed when I was playing around in the romantic Christmas party, particularly, that the pedal markings are saying to change every measure. But if any of you are playing this, I would suggest any place where you have a rest in one hand and not a rest in the other, that you maybe ignore the pedal markings that say just hold the pedal down the whole time and play around with it a little bit. So let me give you an example of me just leaving my pedal down the whole time, okay? Or for every measure like it says to do. So that's with the pedal all the way down, which I think doesn't sound too bad, but sometimes because this is big and loud that we lose, with the pedal all the way down, we lose some of the smaller details. So I would suggest maybe changing or doing a little half lift of your pedal. If you haven't tried this, experiment with it. The pedal is so fun, but if you just slam it down the whole time, you're not exploring as much as you could. You're missing out on some really cool sounds. One more thing I wanted to say about the romantic Christmas party is something that's typical of romantic music is you have this thing called rubato. So I don't know if you guys have heard this before, but that means to rob time. So hopefully none of you guys are stealing things, but when you're playing music, stealing time can be really fun. But here's the deal. If you steal it, you have to give it back. So what I mean is if you decide to slow down a little bit, at some point you have to try and catch up to where you were before. So let me give you an example, again in the romantic party, of how to play without stealing time, and then how to play with stealing time and giving it back. So here's no stealing. Okay, so I don't know if you guys had your metronome going, but if you did, hopefully that was very, very straight and very strict. So now I'll play it with a little bit of taking time and then giving it back. So that's one example of something you could do if you're playing a romantic piece of music, is giving time and taking time. And then just to recap, anyone playing this, but everything you ever play also, take a look at your tempo markings and try to make each one different. If they're telling you to do something different, try and mix it up, especially with something where you play the same song over and over again in a different style. So, yeah.
You gonna play for us?
Do you want me to play the whole thing?
Absolutely.
Okay, here's the whole thing, guys. Wish me luck.
You skip now to the fourth one. I just am looking at the time.
Yes, I will.
Let's go right to the yeah.
Here it is.
so much. Up next, we get to hear Let It Snow with Ariel and Christian.
Okay. So, sharing my screen. Hold on just 1 second. Okay, let me know if you can hear it. Here we go. Okay, great job, Christian. Okay, should I pull up the, do you just want to see me or should I pull up the score for you?
This is perfect. This is ideal. Just plow ahead.
Okay, cool. So I'll share the score then. So here's the score, and there are a couple of things I want to talk about this song. First of all, this is not a very easy song, so good job, Christian. And there are a lot of, this is a song written down on the notation, like on the staff, but it actually sounds a lot like an improvisation. So when you're playing this piece, it is best that you play it like you made this up last second. So that would be the best thing to do. And also, if you're playing it like it's an improv, whenever you're playing a wrong note, don't panic and don't stop, because it sounds so improvised that you can just pretend that it's all part of the plan and then just go on. And there's a vibe in this song. As long as you keep up and you enjoy into the piece, then I don't think a couple of wrong notes would really matter. And there are also some things I want to talk about here. So there is very obviously a melody in the right hand on the soprano sound, like the highest notes are always the melody. But there are sometimes, like here in measure 3, like where I'm circling here. So the right hand is playing the melody, and at the same time, it's playing some parts of the chords that the left hand is doing. So we don't want to hear all the sounds so loud. We only want to hear the melody. So we don't want to hear it like this. We only want to hear this. So you just want to hear the melody up there. And there are a lot of places like this. Also, for example, where is that? Here, at the end of this page, there's that again. And there are a lot of places in this piece that are like this. So we want to bring out the melody as loud as possible. And also, there are a lot of fast running notes, and we want to make sure that you're not rushing in these fast running notes. For example, the performance I heard Christian was playing, he was a little bit rushing in, where is that? Okay, for example, here, like in measure 8, there's this. when you're playing these fast notes, you have to, they are faster, but you can't rush because they are faster. So counting is really vital. As I said at the beginning, when you're playing like it's an improvisation, there is a freedom to it, like what Sarah just said about rubato. If you give the time, you have to take it back. Otherwise, it will sound really unstable, and it won't sound like you're free and you're improvising. It will just sound like you're not sure what you're doing. So counting is really important here. And yeah, I think I'll play the entire piece for you here a little bit, and I'll stop the screen share. Okay. Okay, that's it.
Thank you. Okay, before we dive into the next one, I want you guys to know we are going to go probably about 10 minutes over. So I hope you can stick around, but if you need to skedaddle, we won't be offended for those of you who can't stay to the very end. Okay, but we just have 2 left. So up next, we get to hear Sleigh Ride in 7/8. This is with Camille and Mihaela.
Hi, I'm Camille. Mihaela couldn't make it today, but we have her recording. Can you hear my voice?
Yes, sounds great.
And then let me just make sure my audio, share computer sound. Okay, stop me if the sound isn't good, but I think it'll work. don't play it again. No, just move on. Okay. So Mihaela did awesome on a lot of things. She's not here, so I can't tell her this right now. But I'm just gonna kind of, I'll weave in some of the things that she did well as we're talking about some of the things I want to focus on. So this piece we labeled as an early advanced piece. We go beginner, elementary, intermediate, advanced. An intermediate student knows how to voice the melody, which is what Ariel was talking about, where our top voice we hear the most and the bottom voices we hear less. An advanced student now needs to learn to voice extra counter melodies. This makes the piece more complex, more third-dimensional, and it also kind of makes it sound like we're an entire ensemble when we're just one person, which is super cool, and pianists are the only instrument that can do that. So, for example, I have here my little lines here. This is the melody. The green line down below goes like this. Which is interesting. And then, sorry, yelling in the background. We have these down-stemmed notes in the bass that show us another melody. It does some more over there, yeah. So, how do we make all of these stand out at the same time? It sounds very complex, but there are ways to practice this. We can play each line alone, which is what I just did, and the first thing you want to do is use whatever fingers you need to get a nice sound. When I say nice sound, I mean the articulation you want, the dynamics you want, if you want it to be legato, or you want it to sound legato, just whatever it is that you have in mind. Then play that line alone with the correct fingers, but maintaining the sound. So pretending like you have your upper voices going on and you're just using these fingers. Example is, oh, sorry, I need to go back. There we go. Oh, sorry. Do you see how I'm like pretend playing the other notes? That's how, and I would work at it a little bit until it sounded just the way I wanted to, because I didn't really love that. It sounded kind of punchy. So you work on that until that sounds nice, and then you can combine the different voices and listen for each one to see if each of them still sounds interesting. The audience won't necessarily hear all of them, but they'll hear one of them, whichever one catches their ear, and they'll enjoy it, and you get to enjoy all of them, which is extra fun. Creating variety and different themes, this is the other thing I want to talk about. This piece is quite repetitive. Christmas pieces tend to be quite repetitive with the verse coming back over and over. A piece of music needs to have different colors just like a painting does. If a painting is all one color, it's not much of a painting. If a piece of music is all one dynamic level or all one articulation, it's less interesting. Mihaela, since we're listening to her over a recording, it's kind of hard for us to tell how much dynamic variation she might have. In person, she has had very good fortes. She could get quieter at some of the other places. One thing that she did really well was when she got to this 5/8, she came off of the pedal. She had been using it a little bit before, and then she came off of the pedal in that section, which gave it a drier sound, which made it sound more interesting. That was a very good choice to make. You can also have more legato tones or more articulate tones, more accents. Basically, you can look to the scores for ideas. So, if we look down at this third section here, we have something here that we don't have in the other two sections, this long slur or phrase mark. This suggests to us that this is all da 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 all the way to the end, whereas the other sections don't have that. So this gives us a really good idea to have a smooth line crescendo all the way up to that top note, like this. That's what I mean by look to the score for ideas. Look for these little clues. There isn't necessarily a right answer, but there are different things that can give you good ideas. So, due to time, I am not going to play the whole thing, but I'm going to play the first little bit, and I will demonstrate some of the different voicing things I've talked about, And hopefully you can hear them even over my laptop. That's where we'll stop.
Thank you. That was fabulous. We have made it to our last performance of the evening. We get to hear from Dr. Kevin Olson and Dr. Cahill Smith on the Christmas medley with students McCall Walker and Emmeline Watkins.
Okay, can everybody hear me? It's great to be here. I'm excited to work with one of Dr. Smith's students, and he's going to work with one of my students. The medley, of course, has two different pieces. So I think Dr. Smith, Emmeline is in your office, right? I think she might be able to play it live for us. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep, she's right here.
Okay, let's hear you. Ah, bravo, nice work. Yeah, you know, being a classical kid playing jazz is kind of like a foreign language in a way, and you're speaking it. And so I'm really impressed. It's very cool. You know, when you're playing jazz, you really have to commit. And one thing I really liked about the way you played is your accents were really accented. Your staccatos are really, nothing can be halfway in jazz. And I think that's a really important thing to be able to do, which I felt like you did really, really well on. I wish I would have had this kind of music when I was a kid. It's so fun and it's so real. This is the kind of stuff you would hear at a jazz club. So it's really great that that you guys get to play music with these really cool chords and really authentic kind of voicings. Just a couple of tiny things. This is very, very picky stuff because you're doing such a great job. One thing we can always get better on in jazz is having perfect time. And so you may have already done this a little bit, but if you're not working with a metronome, make that your rhythm section and just lock in. That click of the metronome is your drummer. And the guys that get all the work and make all the big bucks, they're the ones that have that great time. For example, it's very rare that you are late, but there are times when you're early. So for example, right here, it's later than you think it is. And so I always remember that famous quote that says that the secret to great rhythm is playing as late as possible, but still being on the beat. So I didn't hear a single place where you were late, but there were a couple places where you jumped a little bit on the beat. And I would say that's something. Finally, and there's other things, but you're playing so well that the only big thing that I would also add maybe is for you and your teacher to consider the bass line. When you have that walking bass, you're kind of imitating the stand-up bass, right? And he's plucking. And so he has that pluck sound, but then the upright bass rings, right? So when I'm playing a walking bass line, I like to connect it. So when you have and I think it's a nice contrast because the right hand is so articulated and short and staccato in places. It's a nice place to go. And then that kind of is your imitation of a walking upright bass. But Emmeline, you're rocking. So great job. And I hope you do more jazz because this is really fun. And if you haven't checked out about your high school jazz band, do it because it's one of the most fun you can have playing piano is playing in your high school jazz band. So great job.
Fabulous. All right, Dr. Smith, are you ready?
I am ready. Just give me 1 second to turn my camera around. Sure, I'll go ahead and share McCall's performance unless she wants to play live. McCall, do you want to play live for us?
I can play live.
Okay, we're ready.
All right.
Bravo, McCall. Hi, I think I can take this off now. I enjoyed your playing so much of this beautiful, sensitive ballad. So you've just been working on this for a little bit. When did you start on this? I'm curious.
Probably, I don't know, maybe about a month or two ago. Not even 2 months, I don't think.
That's really exceptional work. You should just be so proud of this. I know you're playing the other half of this medley as well. I really appreciated your sensitivity to the colors and special harmonies in this piece. And especially, when I listened to your recording first, I was really surprised by the maturity of your rubato, the sort of taking and stealing time through this. I think that's one way that performers make a piece like this quite meaningful and not so bland. And you're doing a great job with that. So yeah, I mean, the things that I'll say to you are just some ideas to think about, but it's really beautiful playing. So I always think of this tune as being very nostalgic and very sad. And I think some of that comes from the words, but also some of it comes from the harmonies. This is full of little deceptive motions and little places where it sounds like it's going home harmonically, and then it twists and goes a different direction. And I love some of those moments. One of my favorite ones is at the very end of the first phrase. I'm going to switch my camera here so you can see my fingers. It's a little bit more important. So that's like at the end of the third line. Do you see that place? And we're expecting maybe something like this or something like this, but the way it resolves, that is so colorful, just that deceptive sort of bass motion there. And I think all of those places are places that you can certainly hold back on the time. I know this is weird because you're seeing me from over here, but I'm looking over here to see your face. So sorry about that. Yeah, I think you can enjoy those moments even more and take even more time if you dare. It's a delicate balance because you don't want the piece to just fall apart and end up like a puddle on the floor because you went too slow. But I could certainly use even more time taking in some of those places. Um, yeah, I think that's gorgeous. Well, I guess what I could work on, which is hard to hear through the microphone, but I think it's so important in a piece like this, is about tone and color. So the sort of world of tone, and we think of it in layman's terms as how soft or how loud we're playing the keys, but also has to do with the physical touch of the keyboard. And I think you can explore as a way to kind of open up your tone palette, listening or experimenting with different ways to touch the keyboard. So instead of everything always being downwards, no, you can think of stroking the key towards you for some soft sounds, or even coming up from the piano this way sometimes. That, without thinking about softs and louds, that gives you a big library of sort of touches to deal with. And for me, when I'm playing a piece like this, um, I want the audience to kind of sing along with me, right? This has got a tune in it. It actually has words, the original. So I want to give them a little bit of a meatier tone on that singing voice. And then the other ones, I want to play kind of light and in the background. So I'll just make it, really simple and think of it as like singing fingers versus texture fingers. So I'm going to play a little excerpt and play the singing tune with this kind of deep tone touching all the way to the bottom of the keyboard like this. And then I'm going to play the notes that are really not part of the tune with a texture finger. So I'm just going to lightly tap the surface of the key for those. And tell me if you hear a difference. Did you hear sort of the difference in the little interlude there? I think that could be really nice to color those notes that way. So you can experiment by exaggerating, like really making a big difference. And then as you get closer to the performance, which is, I guess, you've already done it, but next time sort of, pull the box in that way. So, and another big picture thing when you're thinking about rubato and where to take time and where to move forward. I like to try to save as much as I can for the very last note of the phrase. Do you have any idea how many phrases there are in this piece?
No.
So I was looking at it really with like kind of a purist, definition of the architecture. There's a little introduction, and then there's really just 4 phrases in the whole piece. So I'm thinking of saying 4 big things and trying to save the most time for the very ends of those. So like at the top of the second page, I'm really trying to go all the way from the beginning of the first line to the end of the second line, kind of in one breath. Even though there's a little bit of a halfway point there, I'm trying to save my time the most for the very end of the second line. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
I'm trying to save that rubber band stretch for as late as I can to really make the piece, I don't know, like a little bit more palatable. So it's like the audience can kind of put it together in little chunks and understand how it flows. But I love your sensitivity to all the harmonies. I think a piece like this is so hard because every darn chord is so beautiful and rich. So it makes you want to stop everywhere. It's a pretty sad ending too. Can you play the very end for us again? This is another one of those harmonic surprises for me. When I'm listening to this, I hear this chord wanting to go there, and it goes in the most bizarre direction. You play it again for us from the slowly.
Okay. Oh, it's there.
That's just wild, isn't it? That move to B flat major, and then the most unexpected ending. It's like ending in a very sad G minor. I had one other thought, just a silly little thing for body language. What if you took the last 3 notes in the left hand? It's a very sad ending. It makes me want to just kind of like slump at the piano a little bit. Try that. It's like the music for Jingle Bells here. Jingle bells, jingle bells, jingle all the way. And just sort of wait there until the audience gets uncomfortable and you hear the crickets, and then take your hands off the keys. You want to try it?
Yeah.
If you like it, and if your teacher likes it. Sorry, it's very bright over here. Let's have another hand for McCall. I thought this was absolutely gorgeous playing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Okay. Thank you all so much. Let's all give one giant Zoom applause to all the great teachers and performers tonight. Yes. I'm so grateful all of you could be here. It was fabulous hearing from everybody. I cannot wait to see all of the recordings that are going to pour in tomorrow, as that is our deadline. If you guys have any questions, I'm going to stick around so that you can ask them. Otherwise, thanks again for coming, and we will see you next time.
Bravo, Emily. Thanks for putting this together.
Yes. Thanks, Emily.
You're welcome, Mom.